The morning sun barely touched the mountain peaks when Maya heard the whispers again. 3 women gathered near the village well, their voices low but their words sharp enough to cut through stone. She pulled her shawl tighter around her shoulders and tried to walk past them, but their conversation followed her like a shadow. 3 years married and still no baby, one woman said, shaking her head. Poor girl. What use is a wife who cannot give children? Maya's steps quickened, but the damage was already done. The words hit her heart like stones thrown at a bird. She had heard these whispers every day for months now. Sometimes they were louder. Sometimes they pretended to be kind. But they all said the same thing. She was broken. Back in her small house, Maya sat on the wooden floor and stared at her empty hands. Her husband Rajesh had left early for the fields again. He barely looked at her anymore. When they first married, he would smile at her and talk about the children they would have. Now silence filled their home like thick fog. The village followed old rules that nobody questioned. A woman's worth came from the children she could bear. Sons were especially precious. They would carry the family name and take care of parents when they grew old. Daughters were good too, as they could be married off to create new connections between families. But a woman who could not have any children? She was considered cursed by the gods. Maya had tried everything. She visited the temple every morning and evening. She ate special foods that the older women suggested. She wore the right colors and said the right prayers. She even traveled to the next village to see a healer who claimed to know ancient secrets. Nothing worked. Her body remained empty, month after month. The worst part was watching other women in the village. Young brides who married after her were already holding babies. Some had 2 or 3 children by now. They would pass by her house with their little ones, and Maya would feel her heart break a little more each time. She was happy for them, but their joy reminded her of her own failure. Her mother-in-law Kamala had been patient at first. She would make special teas and give Maya advice about timing and positions. But as time passed, Kamala's patience wore thin like old cloth. She started making comments about how Maya must have done something wrong in a past life to deserve this punishment. Sometimes she would suggest that Rajesh should find another wife who could give him children. The village priest had declared that Maya's childlessness was a sign of divine displeasure. He suggested that her family had angered the gods somehow. This made everyone treat Maya differently. They stopped inviting her to baby-naming ceremonies. They avoided asking her to help prepare for weddings. Even the children in the village seemed to sense something was wrong and kept their distance. Maya's own parents lived just 2 streets away, but they visited less and less often. When they did come, the conversations were awkward and painful. Her father would ask Rajesh about crops and weather, avoiding any mention of grandchildren. Her mother would look at Maya with sad eyes and sigh deeply, as if mourning someone who had died. The pressure grew heavier with each passing day. Rajesh's family began having quiet meetings that stopped when Maya entered the room. She could feel them making decisions about her future, but nobody asked what she wanted. The village elders started visiting more often, speaking in low voices with Rajesh and his father about practical solutions. One evening, Maya overheard a conversation that made her blood turn cold. Rajesh was talking to his father about divorce. In their culture, a man could send his wife back to her parents if she failed to perform her duties. Having children was considered the most important duty of all. The family line must continue, Rajesh's father said. We cannot wait forever for a miracle that may never come. Maya pressed herself against the wall, trying to hear more. Her husband's voice was tired and sad when he replied, I know, Papa, but Maya is a good woman. She takes care of the house well. She is kind and hardworking. Kindness does not make babies, his father said firmly. And what will happen to our family name when we are gone? Who will light our funeral fires? Who will remember our ancestors? That night Maya could not sleep. She lay on her mat, listening to Rajesh breathe beside her, and wondered how much longer she would be allowed to stay in this house. The walls that had once felt like home now seemed like a prison. Every corner reminded her of the children she could not give birth to. The empty rooms echoed with the laughter of babies who would never exist. The next morning brought visitors that Maya had been dreading. The village matchmaker arrived with 2 other women. They sat with Kamala and spoke in hushed tones while Maya served them tea. She could feel their eyes studying her, measuring her worth like they would examine cloth in the market. After they left, Kamala called Maya into the main room. Her face was serious, but there was also relief in her eyes. "Child," she said, using a word that felt bitter now. "We have been thinking about your situation. Perhaps it is time to consider other options." Maya's heart sank, but she tried to keep her voice steady. "What kind of options?" "There are families who need help. Men who have lost their wives and need someone to care for their households. They are not looking for more children, just someone reliable and hardworking." The words hit Maya like a physical blow. They were suggesting she become a servant, not a wife. Someone who would clean and cook and take care of other people's children while never having her own. "But I am already married," Maya said quietly. Kamala looked uncomfortable. "That can be arranged. These are practical matters, Beta. We must think about what is best for everyone." Maya understood what arranged meant. Rajesh would divorce her, and she would be passed to another family like a piece of furniture that no longer fit in its original room. Her parents would have to take her back first, but only long enough to find someone else willing to accept a barren woman. The shame burned in her chest like fire. She had always known this day might come, but knowing and experiencing were very different things. She thought about her childhood dreams of motherhood, about the lullabies she had imagined singing to her babies. All of those dreams were turning to dust. That evening, Maya walked to the edge of the village where the houses gave way to rocky hills. She sat on a large stone and watched the sunset behind the mountains. The beauty of the moment felt strange against the ugliness of her situation. The world continued to be beautiful even when her life was falling apart. She touched her flat stomach and whispered an apology to the children who would never come. She had failed them before they even existed. She had failed her husband, her in-laws, her parents, and herself. In a culture where a woman's worth was measured by her fertility, Maya had been found wanting. Tomorrow, she knew, the real discussions would begin. The adults would decide her fate while she sat silently in the corner. They would negotiate her future like a business deal, trying to find the best arrangement for everyone except her. Maya closed her eyes and tried to imagine a different life, one where she mattered for reasons beyond childbearing. But in her village, such dreams were as impossible as the children she could never have. She was about to discover just how far her family would go to solve the problem of her existence. Maya woke up to the sound of hushed conversations coming from the main room of her parents' house. She had been back home for 3 days now, ever since Rajesh's family had made their decision final. The divorce papers were signed, and she was no longer welcome in the house where she had spent 3 years trying to become a mother. Her father's voice carried through the thin walls, along with the voices of men she didn't recognize. They were discussing her like she was a goat at the market, talking about her age, her health, and her ability to work. Maya pulled her blanket over her head, but she could still hear every word. "She is 23, still young and strong," her father was saying. "She can cook, clean, and manage a household. She just cannot bear children." "That makes her less valuable," another voice replied. "Most men want the possibility of sons even if they already have children from a previous wife." Maya's mother, Devi, had been crying on and off for days. The shame of having a divorced daughter was almost as bad as having a barren one. In their community, a woman returned to her parents' house was seen as damaged goods. It reflected poorly on the entire family. "We must find someone quickly," Devi whispered to her husband when she thought Maya couldn't hear. "The longer she stays here, the more people will talk. And we need to recover some of the money we spent on her wedding." The money, that was what hurt Maya the most. Her parents had borrowed heavily to pay for her wedding 3 years ago. They had bought jewelry, expensive saris, and given a substantial gift to Rajesh's family. Now that the marriage had failed, they were desperate to get something back. They had decided to sell their daughter to recoup their losses. On the 4th morning, Maya's father shook her awake before dawn. His face was grim but determined. "Get ready," he said. "We are going to the town market today. Wear your blue sari, the one without holes, and put some oil in your hair." Maya knew what this meant, but hearing it out loud still shocked her. "Papa, please don't do this. There must be another way." Her father's expression softened for just a moment, but then hardened again. "Child, we have no choice. We cannot feed another mouth forever, and we need to pay back our debts. This is the only solution." The journey to the town market took 2 hours by bullock cart. Maya sat between her parents, feeling like she was traveling to her own funeral. Her mother kept adjusting Maya's sari and reminding her to keep her head down and speak only when spoken to. "Remember," Devi said, You must appear humble and hardworking. Do not mention the divorce unless they ask directly. And whatever you do, do not cry. Men do not want to buy a woman who seems weak. The town market was bustling with activity when they arrived. Vendors sold vegetables, cloth, pottery, and livestock. Maya's father led them to a section she had never seen before, an area where people stood in small groups, some holding signs or calling out descriptions of their wares. But these were not selling goods. They were selling people. Most were young men looking for work as laborers or servants. A few were young women in situations similar to Maya's, divorced, widowed, or from families too poor to keep them. Maya felt sick as she realized she was about to join this group of human merchandise. Her father found a spot near a large tree and told Maya to stand there while he posted a simple sign. Hard-working woman, 23 years old, experienced in household management, seeking employment or marriage arrangement. The word barren was not on the sign, but Maya knew it would come up in conversations. There was no hiding it for long. The first few hours were humiliating beyond anything Maya had experienced. Men would approach, look her up and down like they were examining a cow, and ask her father questions about her health, her work experience, and her background. When they learned about her inability to have children, most walked away immediately. "Can she lift heavy things?" one farmer asked. "I need someone to help with the harvest, but the work is hard." "She is strong," her father assured him. "She has managed a household for 3 years." The farmer looked at Maya directly for the first time. "Open your mouth," he said. "I want to see your teeth." Maya felt her cheeks burn with shame, but she opened her mouth. The farmer peered inside like she was a horse he was thinking of buying. "Why can't she have children?" he asked bluntly. "It is God's will," her father replied carefully, "but she is healthy in all other ways." The farmer shook his head and walked away. "I need someone who might give me sons eventually. This one is useless for that." As the day wore on, Maya felt herself shrinking inside. Each rejection made her feel smaller and more worthless. Some men offered insulting amounts of money, barely enough to buy a healthy goat. Others wanted to negotiate payment plans, as if Maya was an expensive piece of equipment they needed to purchase over time. One middle-aged merchant seemed interested until he learned the full details of Maya's situation. Divorced. "For barrenness," he mused, stroking his beard. "I already have 2 wives who have given me sons. I suppose I could use a servant who won't get pregnant and cause complications in the household." He offered an amount so low that even Maya's desperate father hesitated. "She is worth more than that," her father protested. "She is educated, well-trained, and from a good family." The merchant laughed. "Friend, you are not selling a bride here. You are selling a broken woman that nobody else wants. Take my offer or find someone else willing to pay even less." Maya watched her father's face crumble as he realized the truth of those cruel words. She was indeed a broken woman that nobody wanted. Her inability to bear children had made her nearly worthless in their society's eyes. As the afternoon heat grew intense, fewer people passed by their spot under the tree. Maya's legs ached from standing and her heart ached from the constant humiliation. She had been poked, prodded, questioned, and rejected more times than she could count. A group of women from her village happened to pass through the market and saw her standing there. Maya wanted to disappear into the ground as she watched them whisper and point. By evening, everyone in her village would know that Maya's family had been forced to try selling her in the market like livestock. "Maybe we should go home," her mother suggested as the sun began to set. "We can try again another day," but her father was stubborn. The journey to town was expensive and they needed to make it worthwhile. "1 more hour," he decided. "Someone will come." Maya was beginning to think that nobody would ever want her when she noticed a tall man walking slowly through their section of the market. Unlike the others who had approached, he didn't seem to be in a hurry. He stopped to talk quietly with a few people, listening more than speaking. When he reached their spot, he didn't immediately look at Maya. Instead, he addressed her father politely. "Good evening, sir. I see you have a daughter seeking employment." Her father straightened up, hopeful again. Yes. She is very capable and hardworking." The man nodded, then turned to Maya. His eyes were kind, not calculating like the others had been. "What is your name?" he asked her directly. Maya was so surprised by the question that she almost forgot to answer. All day people had talked about her without ever addressing her personally. "Maya," she said quietly. "I am Thomas," he replied. "I have traveled from the forest region to the north. I have 4 children who need care and I need help managing my household. Maya dared to look up at his face. He appeared to be in his 30s, with work-roughened hands and weather-beaten skin that spoke of outdoor labor. But his expression was gentle and he spoke to her like she was a person, not a piece of property. I should tell you, her father interjected. She cannot have children of her own. Thomas nodded calmly. I do not need more children. I need someone who can care for the ones I already have. For the first time all day, Maya felt a tiny spark of hope. This man was not looking for a wife to bear him sons. He was looking for help with existing children. Maybe, just maybe, her curse could be someone else's solution. What happened to your wife? Maya asked, then immediately regretted her boldness. But Thomas didn't seem offended. She died 2 years ago, giving birth to our youngest. The children need a mother figure and I need a partner to help run our home. Maya's heart began to beat faster. This sounded almost too good to be true. After a day of being rejected and insulted, here was someone who might actually want her for who she was, not despite who she was. Thomas and her father began discussing terms, but Maya barely heard the details. She was imagining what it might be like to care for 4 motherless children, to have a purpose again, to matter to someone. The forest region was far from her village, far from all the whispers and shame. As negotiations continued, Maya allowed herself to hope that this terrible day might end with unexpected salvation. Thomas looked different from the other men who had approached Maya throughout that long, humiliating day. While others had examined her like livestock, he spoke to her as if she were an actual person with thoughts and feelings. Maya found herself studying his face as he talked with her father about practical arrangements. His hands were large and calloused from years of physical work, but when he gestured, his movements were gentle. There were lines around his eyes that suggested he had known both laughter and sorrow. When he mentioned his children, his voice softened in a way that told Maya he truly loved them. I work as a lumberjack in the northern forests, Thomas explained to Maya's parents. My land is about 3 days' journey from here near the mountains. It is isolated but peaceful. My children have been without a mother for 2 years now, and I have been struggling to manage both my work and their care. Maya's father leaned forward, interested. After the day's rejections, any serious inquiry was welcome. What ages are your children? The oldest is Anna, she is 14. Then there is Diego, who is 11. The twins Rosa and Pablo are 8 years old now. Thomas's expression grew sad. Their mother died giving birth to Pablo. For the first year after her death, Anna tried to take care of everyone, but she is still a child herself. It is not fair to ask so much of her. Maya felt her heart tug at the mention of a 14-year-old girl trying to mother 3 younger siblings. She remembered being 14 herself, old enough to feel responsible for everything, but too young to actually handle such burdens. What exactly would you expect from my daughter? Devi asked, speaking up for the first time. Thomas turned to include both parents in his answer, but Maya noticed he kept glancing at her as if her opinion mattered too. I need a partner to help manage our household, someone to cook, help with cleaning, and most importantly, to provide guidance and care for my children. They need stability and a woman's influence as they grow up. And in return, Maya's father asked, getting to the financial details that mattered most to him. I would provide a home, food, security, and protection. Your daughter would be treated as part of the family, not as a servant. Thomas paused, then added something that surprised everyone. And if she ever decided this arrangement was not working for her, I would help her find another situation. She would not be trapped. Maya blinked in surprise. No one had offered her any kind of choice or escape route all day. Most arrangements like this were permanent, with women having no say in their own futures. Her father looked skeptical. That isn't unusual. Most men prefer more permanent agreements, Thomas shrugged. I believe people work better when they choose to be somewhere, rather than when they are forced to stay. My children need someone who wants to care for them, not someone who feels obligated to do so. Maya found her voice, even though she knew it was bold to speak up during negotiations. What are your children like? What do they enjoy? What are their personalities? Thomas smiled for the first time since the conversation began, and his whole face changed. Maya could see that talking about his children brought him genuine joy. Anna is serious and responsible, sometimes too much so. She loves to read when she can find books. Diego is curious about everything. He asks more questions than the sky has stars. He wants to learn about trees and animals and how everything works. Rosa is gentle and loves beautiful things. She collects pretty stones and tries to make flower arrangements. Pablo is energetic and mischievous. He climbs everything and gets into trouble regularly, but he has a good heart. As Thomas described each child, Maya could picture them in her mind. She imagined Ana carrying too much responsibility for her age, Diego bombarding adults with endless questions, Rosa creating little decorations around their home, and young Pablo getting into harmless mischief. These were real children with distinct personalities, not just obligations to be managed. "They sound wonderful," Maya said softly. "But why would they accept me? I am a stranger, and they have managed without a mother figure for 2 years." Thomas considered her question seriously. "That is a fair concern. Ana might be resistant at first. She has been the woman of the house and might see you as a threat to her position. The younger ones are more likely to be curious than suspicious. But children are adaptable and they need what you could provide." "What do I bring to this situation?" Maya asked, surprising herself with her directness. "Everyone today has focused on what I cannot do. What can I do that would benefit your family?" Thomas looked at her thoughtfully. "You have experience managing a household. You understand what children need because you have wanted them yourself. That desire to nurture does not disappear just because you cannot bear children. And honestly, the fact that you cannot get pregnant might be an advantage in our situation." Maya's parents looked confused, so Thomas explained further. "My children have already lost one mother to childbirth. If I married someone who might become pregnant, they would live in constant fear of losing another mother the same way. With Maya, they could bond with her without that worry. She could focus entirely on caring for them instead of dealing with pregnancies and babies." This was the first time anyone had suggested that Maya's infertility could be seen as a positive trait rather than a failing. The idea was so new to her that she needed a moment to process it. "What about—" Maya hesitated, then pushed forward. "What about the relationship between us? Would this be a marriage or an employment arrangement?" Her parents looked embarrassed by her boldness, but Thomas answered matter-of-factly. "That would depend on how we both felt after getting to know each other. For now, I am thinking of it as a partnership for practical purposes. You would have your own space in the house and there would be no expectations beyond caring for the children and managing the household. If friendship or more developed naturally over time, we could discuss it then." Maya felt relief wash over her. The pressure to immediately fulfill a wife's duties to a stranger had been weighing on her mind. This arrangement offered her time to adjust and find her place without intimate demands. "The isolation does not worry you?" Thomas asked Maya directly. "Our nearest neighbors are half a day's walk away. The town where we get supplies is a full day's journey. During winter, we might not see other people for weeks at a time." Maya thought about this carefully. Isolation meant freedom from gossip and judgment. It meant no whispers about her barrenness, no pitying looks, no comparisons to fertile women. It sounded peaceful rather than frightening. "I think I would prefer that to village life," she admitted. Thomas nodded as if he understood what she meant. "Good. Because my children need consistency and stability, not someone who will be constantly unhappy with their living situation." The practical negotiations moved quickly after that. Thomas offered Maya's parents a fair sum, not an enormous amount, but enough to help with their debts and more respectful than anything else they had been offered that day. He suggested they could send letters through the occasional traders who passed through his area, so Maya could maintain some contact with her family. "When would we leave?" Maya asked. "Tomorrow morning, if that suits everyone. I have been away from my children for several days already, and I do not like leaving Ana responsible for everyone for too long." Maya's mother looked panicked. "Tomorrow? But there is so much to prepare." "I do not have many possessions," Maya said quietly. "Most of my things stayed with my husband's family. I can be ready." Thomas stood up, indicating the conversation was concluding. "I will find lodging in town tonight and return at dawn. Maya, please bring whatever belongings you have and anything you need for cooking or household management. We live simply, but comfortably." As Thomas prepared to leave, he turned to Maya one more time. "I want you to know that this decision is as much yours as anyone's. If you have doubts or concerns tonight, we can discuss them in the morning. I do not want anyone in my household who feels trapped or unhappy." After he left, Maya's parents peppered her with questions and advice. But Maya found herself thinking about 4 motherless children living in a forest, trying to take care of each other. For the first time in months, she felt like she might have a purpose again. Not as a wife who could bear children, but as someone who could care for children who already existed and needed her. That night, as Maya packed her few belongings, she allowed herself to hope that tomorrow would bring a new kind of life, one where her value was not measured by her fertility, but by her capacity to love and nurture others. The forest suddenly sounded like exactly where she belonged. The morning mist was still clinging to the ground when Thomas arrived with a sturdy cart pulled by 2 oxen. Maya had barely slept, her mind racing between excitement and terror about what lay ahead. Her few possessions fit easily into one cloth bundle, some clothes, a pair of extra shoes, a small mirror that had been a wedding gift, and a cookbook her mother had given her years ago. Her parents stood awkwardly in the doorway as Thomas loaded her bundle into the cart. There were no tearful goodbyes or promises to visit soon. Everyone understood that Maya was leaving her old life completely behind. The distance to Thomas's home was not just measured in miles, but in the impossibility of return. "Take care of yourself," her mother whispered, pressing a small pouch of coins into Maya's hand. "And write to us when you can." Maya hugged her parents briefly, surprised by how little emotion she felt. Perhaps after everything that had happened, she had run out of tears. Or perhaps she was simply ready to start over somewhere new, away from all the disappointment and shame. Thomas helped her onto the wooden seat beside him with surprising gentleness. As they started moving, Maya turned back once to see her parents watching from their doorway. She waved, but they had already gone inside. The cart moved slowly but steadily away from the town and toward the mountains. For the first hour, they traveled on roads Maya recognized, passing familiar landmarks and villages. But gradually, the landscape began to change. The cultivated fields gave way to wilder terrain. The houses became fewer and farther apart. The mountains, which had always been distant purple shapes on the horizon, grew larger and more defined. Thomas was not much of a talker, but the silence between them was comfortable rather than awkward. Maya appreciated that he did not try to fill every moment with conversation. She needed time to process what was happening and to prepare mentally for meeting his children. When they stopped beside a stream to rest the oxen and eat some bread and cheese, Thomas finally began to share more about their destination and his expectations. "I want you to understand what life is like where we are going," he said, sitting on a fallen log beside the water. "It is not like village life where you have neighbors nearby and regular social activities. We are largely self-sufficient. We grow some of our own food, preserve meat from hunting, and make many of the things we need." Maya nodded, dipping her feet in the cool stream water. "I understand, but what about schooling for the children, and medical care if someone gets sick or injured? Anna can read and write well, and she has been teaching the others. I learned letters myself from my wife, who came from an educated family. For medical needs, there is an old woman named Carmen, who lives about half a day's walk from us. She knows herbs and healing. For serious injuries or illnesses, we would have to travel to town, but that has only been necessary once in the past 2 years." Maya thought about this level of isolation and responsibility. If someone got hurt or sick, there would be no rushing to fetch help. She would need to learn basic healing skills and how to handle emergencies. "What about your work?" she asked. "How long are you away from home?" "I usually work within a few hours' walk of the house. During busy seasons, I might be gone for most of the day, but I try to be home before dark. The children know how to manage for short periods, but they are still young enough to need supervision." As they continued their journey, the road became rougher and less defined. They passed through dense forests where the canopy blocked out much of the sunlight. Maya had never been in such wild places before. Every sound, bird calls, rustling, leaves, distant animal noises, was new and slightly alarming. "Are there dangerous animals?" she asked, trying to keep her voice casual. Thomas smiled slightly. "Some, bears mainly, and wild boars, but they usually avoid humans if you make enough noise and do not surprise them. The children know the rules about staying close to home and making noise when they walk in the forest." Maya tried to imagine teaching children about bear safety, instead of just warning them about strangers or busy roads. This was going to be a very different kind of mothering than she had ever imagined. As the day progressed, Thomas began sharing more personal information. Maya learned that his wife had been named Isabella, and that she had died when the twins were born. Pablo had survived, but the difficult birth had taken Isabella's life. The children remember her differently, Thomas said. Ana remembers her clearly, and still grieves deeply. Diego remembers some things, but he was only 9 when she died. The twins have only vague memories, more feelings than actual recollections. That must make it complicated for them to accept someone new, Maya observed. Ana is the most protective of her mother's memory. She has kept Isabella's clothes and personal items, and she gets upset if anyone suggests changing things too much. The younger ones are more open to new relationships, but they also test people to see if they will stay or leave like their mother did. Maya felt the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. These children had already experienced the ultimate abandonment, the death of their mother. They would naturally be suspicious of anyone new who claimed to care about them. "What did you tell them about me?" Maya asked. "I told them I was going to find someone to help us manage the household better. I explained that you are someone who needs a home, and we need help, so it could benefit everyone. I did not make any promises about what kind of relationship you might develop with them." Maya appreciated his honesty with the children. It was better than false promises or expectations that might not be met. On the second day of travel, the landscape became even more dramatic. They climbed higher into the mountains, following paths that seemed to be carved out of the rock itself. Maya had never been so high above sea level, and the thinner air made her slightly dizzy. "Look," Thomas said, pointing ahead to where the path curved around a large boulder. Maya gasped when they rounded the corner. Spread out below them was a valley unlike anything she had ever seen. Tall pine trees covered the slopes like a green carpet. A river wound through the middle, sparkling in the afternoon sunlight, and there, near the river's edge, stood a log house with smoke rising from its chimney. "That is home," Thomas said simply. As they descended into the valley, Maya could see more details. There was a large garden behind the house and what looked like animal pens. Laundry hung on a line stretched between 2 trees. And sitting on the front porch of the house were 4 figures who had clearly been watching for their father's return. Maya's heart began beating faster as she realized that in just a few minutes she would meet the children who might become her new family. She had no idea how they would react to her, or whether she would be able to fulfill their needs. "They look smaller than I expected," she murmured, watching the 4 children stand up as the cart approached. "Children always do when you see them from a distance," Thomas replied. "But do not let that fool you. They are tougher and more capable than most adults give them credit for. They have had to be, since Isabella died." As they pulled up to the house, Maya got her first clear look at the 4 children who were studying her just as intently as she was studying them. Ana was indeed tall for her age, with long dark hair and serious brown eyes. Diego was wiry and energetic, bouncing slightly on his toes with curiosity. The twins were easier to tell apart than Maya had expected. Rosa had flowers tucked behind her ear and a clean dress, while Pablo's clothes were already dirty from some adventure. "Children," Thomas said as he helped Maya down from the cart. "This is Maya. She is going to be living with us and helping our family." 4 pairs of eyes studied Maya with the frank assessment that only children can give. She felt like she was being evaluated for a job interview, which in many ways she was. "Hello," Maya said simply, not wanting to overwhelm them with false enthusiasm or promises she might not be able to keep. Rosa stepped forward first, her natural curiosity overcoming her shyness. "Are you going to be our new mama?" she asked with the directness of an 8-year-old. Ana shot her sister a sharp look, but Maya appreciated the honest question. "I am going to live here and help take care of everyone," she said carefully. "We will see what kind of relationship develops between us." Pablo studied Maya with bright, mischievous eyes. "Can you cook better than Ana?" he asked, earning himself a gentle smack from his older sister. Maya laughed, and some of the tension in the air eased. "I guess we will find out together. What kinds of food do you like?" As Thomas unloaded the cart and the children began asking Maya questions, she felt something shift inside her chest. For the first time in years, she was looking forward to tomorrow instead of dreading it. These children needed her, and maybe she needed them too. The forest that had seemed intimidating from a distance now felt like a sanctuary. Here, far from the judgments and whispers of village life, Maya might finally find a place where she belonged. Maya's first night in the forest house was unlike anything she had ever experienced. The silence was so complete that she could hear her own heartbeat. No village sounds, no neighbors talking, no dogs barking in the distance, just the whisper of wind through pine trees and the occasional hoot of an owl. Thomas had given her a small room that had once been Isabella's sewing space. It had a narrow bed, a wooden chest for her clothes, and a single window that looked out toward the garden. The room still held traces of its previous occupant. A half-finished embroidery project folded in the chest, a small mirror with an ornate frame, and the faint scent of lavender that had been Isabella's favorite herb. Maya lay awake for hours that first night, listening to the house settle around her and wondering if she had made a terrible mistake. Through the thin walls, she could hear the children whispering in their shared bedroom, probably discussing the strange woman who had suddenly appeared in their lives. The next morning, Maya woke before dawn to the sound of someone moving around in the kitchen. When she emerged from her room, she found Anna already dressed and preparing breakfast. The 14-year-old girl worked with efficient, practiced movements that spoke of too much responsibility for someone her age. "Good morning," Maya said quietly, not wanting to startle her. Anna glanced up briefly, nodded, then returned to slicing bread. "Papa already left for work. He goes early and comes back at sunset. The others will be up soon." Maya could hear the careful politeness in Anna's voice, but also the underlying message: "This is my kitchen, these are my routines, and I have been managing fine without you. What can I do to help?" Maya asked, genuinely wanting to be useful without stepping on Anna's toes. "Nothing," Anna replied quickly. "I have everything under control." Maya understood that Anna was protecting her position as the responsible one, the mother figure these children had relied on since Isabella's death. Any changes would feel like threats to the order Anna had worked so hard to maintain. When Diego wandered into the kitchen a few minutes later, his hair sticking up in all directions, he was much more curious about their visitor. "Are you really going to live here forever?" he asked Maya, climbing onto a wooden stool at the kitchen table. "I do not know about forever," Maya answered honestly, "but I'm planning to stay for a long time as long as everyone is happy with the arrangement." Diego studied her with intelligent brown eyes. "Papa said you cannot have babies. Is that why you came here? Because you needed children to take care of?" Anna hissed at her brother to mind his own business, but Maya appreciated Diego's directness. Children, she was learning, preferred honest answers to polite evasions. "That is part of it," Maya said. "I wanted children of my own, but it was not possible. Your father needed help caring for all of you, so we decided to help each other." "That makes sense," Diego said, apparently satisfied with this explanation. "Anna tries to take care of everyone, but she gets tired and grumpy sometimes." "I do not get grumpy," Anna protested, but Maya caught the slight smile that crossed her face. The twins appeared a few minutes later, and Maya immediately saw the personality differences Thomas had described. Rosa had carefully braided her hair and was wearing a clean dress with small flowers embroidered on the collar. Pablo's clothes looked like he had slept in them, and there was already dirt under his fingernails despite having just woken up. Rosa approached Maya shyly. "I picked these for you yesterday," she said, holding out a small bouquet of wildflowers. "Welcome flowers." Maya felt her heart squeeze at the thoughtful gesture. "They are beautiful, Rosa. Thank you so much. Should we put them in water?" While Rosa helped Maya find a jar for the flowers, Pablo circled around them like a curious puppy, asking rapid-fire questions. "Where did you come from? How far is it? Did you ride in Papa's cart? Do you know how to climb trees? Can you swim? Have you ever seen a bear?" Pablo let her breathe, Anna said. But Maya could see she was secretly amused by her little brother's enthusiasm. Over the next few days, Maya began to understand the dynamics of this family that had learned to function without a mother. Anna had taken on far too much responsibility, trying to be both big sister and parent to the younger children. Diego had become the questioner and problem solver, always trying to understand how things worked. Rosa sought beauty and gentleness in their sometimes harsh world, and Pablo provided energy and mischief that kept everyone from taking life too seriously. The house itself told the story of their struggles and adaptations. The kitchen showed signs of Anna's inexperienced cooking, pots with burned spots, unevenly cut vegetables, and simple meals repeated frequently because they were safe and familiar. The children's clothes were mended, but not expertly, with mismatched patches and crooked seams. The house was clean but not organized, with belongings scattered in ways that suggested everyone was too busy surviving to worry about tidiness. Maya's biggest challenge was finding her place without disrupting the delicate balance they had achieved. When she tried to help with cooking, Anna would hover anxiously, ready to take over if anything went wrong. When she offered to mend clothes, Rosa wanted to watch and learn, but Anna worried that Maya might not do things the way Isabella had done them. The children tested Maya in small ways during those first weeks. Pablo would accidentally spill things to see how she would react. Diego would ask complicated questions to gauge her intelligence and patience. Rosa would share her treasures, pretty stones, interesting leaves, pressed flowers, to see if Maya would value them appropriately. And Anna watched everything, evaluating whether this stranger could truly be trusted with her siblings' well-being. Maya's breakthrough came during her second week, when Pablo fell out of a tree and scraped his knee badly. Anna immediately went into crisis mode, trying to clean the wound while Pablo cried and the other children gathered around anxiously. Maya stepped in quietly, her voice calm and reassuring. "Pablo, you are going to be fine. This looks worse than it is. Anna, can you get me some clean water and cloth? Rosa, would you find some of those healing herbs your papa keeps in the kitchen? Diego, I need you to help me keep Pablo still while we clean this up." She gave everyone a job, which kept them busy and helpful instead of panicked. As she cleaned Pablo's wound and applied the herbal remedy, Maya talked to him about brave warriors who got injured in battles, and how scars were signs of adventure and courage. By the time Pablo's knee was bandaged and he was distracted by a story about forest animals, Maya realized that all 4 children were looking at her differently. She had proven that she could handle a crisis without falling apart or pushing Anna aside. She had taken charge when needed, but included everyone in the solution. That evening, as Maya helped Rosa arrange some new flowers she had picked, Anna approached her quietly. "You did well today," Anna said, her voice carefully neutral. "With Pablo's accident." "Thank you," Maya replied. "You had taught him good first aid skills. He knew to come straight home when he got hurt." Anna's expression softened slightly at the recognition of her efforts. Mama always said that children need to know how to take care of themselves and each other in the forest. It was the first time Anna had mentioned her mother directly to Maya, and Maya understood the significance of the moment. "That was wise advice," Maya said. "You have done an excellent job taking care of everyone. I hope I can learn from you and help share some of the responsibility." Something shifted in Anna's face at those words. For 2 years, she had carried the weight of caring for her siblings with little recognition of how difficult it was for someone her age. Maya's acknowledgement of her efforts and offer to help rather than replace her seemed to ease some of the tension Anna had been carrying. Over the following days, Maya noticed small changes. Anna began asking for her opinions on meal planning instead of just announcing what they would eat. Diego started directing some of his endless questions to Maya instead of pestering Anna constantly. Rosa began leaving small gifts on Maya's windowsill, interesting stones, pretty leaves, drawings she had made. And Pablo started including Maya in his request for stories and games. The house began to feel more organized and peaceful as Maya gradually took on tasks that matched her skills. She was a better cook than Anna, so she took over most of the meal preparation while teaching Anna more advanced techniques. She was excellent at mending and sewing, so she began repairing the family's clothes and making small improvements to their comfort. Most importantly, Maya brought a sense of calm patience that had been missing from their household. When problems arose, she approached them methodically rather than frantically. When conflicts developed between the children, she mediated instead of just imposing rules. When someone was sad or frustrated, she listened before trying to fix things. 3 weeks after her arrival, Maya was hanging laundry on the line when she overheard Rosa talking to her doll. "Maya is nice," Rosa said in the matter-of-fact way children have. "She does not try to be Mama, but she takes care of us like Mama did. I think she should stay forever." Maya felt tears spring to her eyes at this simple acceptance. She was not trying to replace Isabella or compete with the children's memories of their mother. She was simply trying to be herself and let relationships develop naturally. Winter arrived early in the mountains that year, bringing with it a test that Maya had not expected. The first heavy snowfall came in late October, covering their valley in a thick white blanket that would not melt again until spring. Maya had never experienced such complete isolation before, and at first the endless white landscape felt suffocating. "This is nothing," Anna told her as they watched snow pile up against the windows. "Last year we were snowed in for almost 4 months. Papa could barely get to the woodshed some days." Maya looked around their small house with new understanding. During the growing season, the children could play outside, explore the forest, and burn off energy in the fresh air. But winter meant months of being confined together in close quarters, with no escape from each other's moods and no outside distractions. "What did you do all winter last year?" Maya asked. Anna's expression grew dark. "We survived, barely. Pablo and Rosa got cabin fever and fought constantly. Diego asked the same questions over and over because he was bored. I tried to keep everyone busy, but I ran out of ideas by December." Maya could imagine how difficult those long, dark months must have been for a 13-year-old girl trying to manage 3 younger siblings while grieving her mother's death. No wonder Anna had seemed so protective of her routines and responsibilities. "Well, this year will be different," Maya said firmly. "We are going to make winter an adventure instead of something to just survive." The first thing Maya did was reorganize their limited living space to make it more comfortable for extended indoor time. She moved furniture to create a larger area in the main room where the children could spread out projects and games. She set up a reading corner near the fireplace with cushions and blankets. Most importantly, she established routines that would give structure to the long days ahead. Mornings became learning time. Maya discovered that while Anna could read well, her education had stopped when Isabella died. Diego was eager to learn but had no one to teach him advanced skills. The twins could manage basic letters and numbers but needed more practice. "From now on," Maya announced, "we will have school every morning after breakfast. Anna, you can help me teach the younger ones while I teach you more advanced subjects." Anna looked skeptical. "What could you teach me?" "I already know how to read and write." Maya smiled mysteriously. "There is much more to education than basic letters. Have you ever learned about geography? Mathematics beyond simple counting? History, science?" Over the following weeks, Maya transformed their kitchen table into a classroom. She used Diego's endless curiosity about how things worked to teach basic science principles. She had Rosa practice her letters by writing stories about her flower collections. She challenged Pablo's energy by having him act out historical events and mathematical problems. For Anna, Maya provided the advanced education that Isabella had planned to give her daughter. Using the few books Thomas owned and drawing on her own knowledge, Maya taught Anna about the wider world beyond their mountain valley. "I never knew there were cities with thousands of people." Anna marveled one day as Maya described the bustling markets and busy streets of larger towns. "Someday, if you want, you could visit such places," Maya said. "Education opens doors to possibilities you have not even imagined yet." Afternoons became project time. Maya had brought skills with her that the family had been lacking. She taught all the children more advanced sewing techniques, turning their mending time into creativity sessions. Rosa learned to embroider flowers on plain fabric, transforming simple clothes into beautiful garments. Diego wanted to learn practical skills, so Maya taught him to repair tools and household items. Pablo's restless energy found an outlet in woodworking projects. Thomas had basic carpentry skills, and Maya encouraged him to teach Pablo how to carve and build simple items. Soon their house was filling with Pablo's creations: wooden bowls, small stools, and increasingly ambitious projects. Evenings became storytelling time. Maya had always loved stories, and she discovered that the children were hungry for tales beyond the simple ones they already knew. She told them stories from her own childhood, legends she had heard from traveling merchants, and tales she invented on the spot featuring brave children who overcame challenges through cleverness and cooperation. "Tell us the one about the girl who tamed the mountain bears," Rosa would beg, curling up next to Maya by the fireplace. "Tell the one where the boy defeats the giants with riddles," Diego would add. These story sessions became precious family time, with even Anna putting aside her serious responsibilities to listen and sometimes contribute her own tales. But Maya's greatest success was in healing the emotional wounds that still lingered from Isabella's death. She noticed that the children rarely talked about their mother, as if mentioning her might cause more pain. Anna, in particular, seemed to carry guilt about enjoying anything, as if happiness was a betrayal of her mother's memory. Maya approached this delicately, starting by asking the children to tell her about Isabella. At first they were reluctant, but gradually they began sharing memories. Mama used to sing while she cooked, Rosa remembered. She knew songs about everything: washing dishes, kneading bread, even sweeping floors. She was very smart, Diego added. She could answer almost any question I asked, and when she did not know something, she would help me figure out how to find the answer. She was beautiful, Anna said quietly. Everyone in her village said she was the most beautiful woman they had ever seen. Papa was lucky to marry her. She smelled like flowers, Pablo contributed, though his memories were hazier than the others, and she gave the best hugs. Maya listened to each memory with genuine interest, asking questions that encouraged the children to share more details. She hung up the portrait of Isabella that Anna had been keeping hidden in her room, placing it in a place of honor in the main room. "Your mother sounds like a wonderful woman," Maya told them. "I am honored to care for the children she loved so much. I am not trying to replace her, no one could do that. But I hope I can love you the way she would want you to be loved." This acknowledgement of Isabella's irreplaceable place in their lives seemed to free the children to build relationships with Maya without feeling disloyal to their mother's memory. As winter deepened, their small house became a world unto itself. The children's laughter returned, filling rooms that had been too quiet for too long. Anna began to relax and act more like a teenager than an overburdened caretaker. Diego's curiosity found positive outlets instead of driving everyone crazy with endless questions. Rosa's gentle nature bloomed as she felt secure and valued, and Pablo's mischievous energy was channeled into creative projects instead of destructive behavior. Maya discovered that her inability to have children of her own had prepared her for this situation in unexpected ways. All the maternal love she had stored up with no outlet was now poured into 4 children who desperately needed it. She had time and emotional energy to focus entirely on their needs because she was not dealing with the physical demands of pregnancy, childbirth, and infant care. Thomas began to see changes in his children that amazed him. Anna started talking about her dreams for the future instead of just focusing on daily survival. Diego's questions became more sophisticated as his education advanced. Rosa's confidence grew as her artistic talents were recognized and encouraged. Pablo's behavior improved dramatically when he felt valued for his energy and creativity, rather than scolded for being disruptive. "I have not heard Anna laugh like that in 2 years," Thomas told Maya one evening as they watched Anna teaching the twins a complicated clapping game. "She is still a child herself," Maya replied. "She just needed permission to act like one again." The house itself reflected their growing happiness. Maya's touches were everywhere: curtains she had sewn to brighten the windows, cushions she had made for extra comfort, organizational systems that made their limited space more functional. But more than physical improvements, there was an atmosphere of warmth and belonging that had been missing since Isabella's death. By midwinter, Maya realized that she had found something she had never expected: a family that needed her exactly as she was. Her infertility, which had been seen as a curse in her previous life, had become a blessing in this new one. She could give these children the focused attention and care they needed, without the divided attention that biological children would have required. "Maya," Rosa said one snowy afternoon as they worked on an embroidery project together, "are you glad you came to live with us?" Maya looked around the warm kitchen at Anna helping Diego with his mathematics, Pablo carefully carving a wooden horse, and Rosa's flower embroidery growing more beautiful by the day. "Yes, sweetheart," she said, meaning it completely. "I am exactly where I belong." Outside, the snow continued to fall, but inside their small house, Maya had found a warmth that had nothing to do with the fireplace. She had found a family that valued her for who she was, not for what she could not provide. And for the first time in her life, that was enough. Spring came late to the mountains, but when it finally arrived, it brought changes that Maya had not anticipated. The snow melted slowly, revealing a landscape transformed by months of winter rest. Green shoots pushed through the dark soil, and the air filled with the sounds of returning birds and running water. Maya stood in the doorway of their house, breathing in the sweet mountain air and watching Thomas work in the garden. Over the long winter months, she had grown accustomed to his quiet presence and steady reliability. He was different from any man she had known before, gentle with his children, respectful in his interactions with her, and completely without the arrogance or demands she had experienced in her previous marriage. "Maya, look what I found," Rosa's voice called from across the clearing. The 8-year-old came running with her hands cupped carefully around something precious. Maya knelt down as Rosa opened her hands to reveal a tiny bird that must have fallen from its nest. The creature was barely alive, its tiny chest rising and falling rapidly. "Can we save it?" Rosa asked, her eyes wide with hope and concern. Maya examined the small bird carefully. "We can try. Let us make a warm, safe place for it and see if it can recover." As they worked together to create a makeshift nest from soft cloth and place it near the fireplace, Maya became aware that Thomas had stopped his work to watch them. When she looked up, she found his eyes on her face with an expression she had not seen before, something warm and appreciative that made her heart skip. Unexpectedly, "You are good with her," he said simply when Rosa ran off to find suitable food for their patient. "She has a kind heart," Maya replied. "She sees the beauty and value in everything, even tiny broken birds." "Like someone else I know," Thomas said quietly, and Maya felt heat rise in her cheeks at the compliment. Over the following weeks, Maya began to notice changes in how Thomas interacted with her. Their practical partnership was evolving into something deeper and more personal. He would linger after dinner to talk about the children's progress or to share stories about his work in the forest. He started asking for her opinions on decisions that affected the whole family, treating her as an equal partner rather than an employee. One evening, as they sat by the fire after the children had gone to bed, Thomas surprised Maya with a direct question. "Are you happy here?" he asked. "Really happy? Not just making the best of the situation?" Maya considered the question seriously. 6 months ago, she had been a rejected wife being sold in a marketplace. Now she was part of a family that valued and needed her. She had children who ran to her with their problems and achievements. She had a home where she felt useful and appreciated. "Yes," she said honestly, "I am happier than I have ever been in my life." Thomas nodded, looking relieved. "Good. Because I have been thinking about our arrangement and I would like to discuss some changes." Maya's heart clenched with sudden fear. Had she done something wrong? Was he planning to send her away? "What kind of changes?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. Thomas leaned forward, his expression earnest. "When I brought you here, it was supposed to be a practical arrangement. Help with the children in exchange for a home and security, but it has become much more than that, at least for me." Maya waited, afraid to hope and afraid to despair. "You have brought life back to this house," Thomas continued. "Not just organization and care, but joy and warmth and love. The children adore you. They trust you completely. And he paused, searching for words. "I find myself caring for you in ways I did not expect." Maya felt her breath catch. "What are you saying?" "I am saying that I would like our partnership to become a real marriage if you are willing. Not because we need to make our arrangement official, but because I have come to love you." The words hung in the air between them, precious and fragile. Maya had given up hope of ever hearing such words from someone she respected and cared for. "I love you too," she whispered, the admission surprising her with its truth. "I did not expect it to happen, but it did." Thomas smiled, and Maya realized it was the first time she had seen him look truly happy since she had known him. "So we are in agreement then? We want to build a real family together?" Maya nodded, feeling tears of joy spring to her eyes. "Yes, more than anything." Their first kiss was gentle and sweet, full of promise rather than passion. It felt like the beginning of something beautiful rather than the continuation of something desperate. The children's reactions to their parents' changing relationship were varied and telling. Rosa was delighted and immediately began planning what she considered appropriate celebrations. Pablo was practical, asking if this meant Maya would never leave them. Diego wanted to understand the legal and social implications of their marriage. And Ana was cautiously hopeful but protective of her siblings' happiness. "You are not just saying this to make us feel secure, are you?" Ana asked Maya privately. "Because if you changed your mind later, it would destroy them." Maya understood Ana's concern completely. The 14-year-old had seen her siblings suffer the ultimate abandonment when their mother died. She needed assurance that Maya's commitment was permanent and genuine. "Ana, I promise you that I am not going anywhere," Maya said seriously. I love your father and I love all of you. This is my family now, and families stick together through everything. Anna studied Maya's face for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Good. Because they have been happier this year than they have been since Mama died, and I have been happier too. The simple wedding ceremony took place in their own home with only the family present. Carmen, the herbalist woman who served as their nearest neighbor, agreed to officiate. Thomas and Maya spoke vows they had written themselves, promising to love and support each other and to continue building their family together. Maya wore a dress that Anna had helped her sew from fabric Thomas brought back from his last trip to town. It was simple but beautiful, embroidered with flowers that Rosa had designed. Diego had carved wooden rings for the ceremony, and Pablo had picked wildflowers to decorate their small house. As Maya and Thomas spoke their vows with their 4 children watching, Maya marveled at how different this wedding was from her first one. That ceremony had been full of expensive decorations and many guests, but it had felt hollow and formal. This ceremony was simple and intimate, but it felt real and meaningful. I promise to love you for who you are, not for what you can give me, Maya said to Thomas. I promise to be a true partner in building our family and our life together. I promise to value you and respect you always, Thomas replied. I promise to build a life with you where everyone is loved and everyone belongs. When Carmen pronounced them married, the children cheered and threw Rosa's flower petals in the air. Maya felt a completeness she had never experienced before. She was no longer Maya, the barren woman, Maya, the rejected wife, or Maya, the desperate purchase from a marketplace. She was simply Maya, beloved wife and mother, valued member of a family that had chosen her just as she had chosen them. That night, as Maya and Thomas talked quietly in their bedroom, the room they now shared as true husband and wife, Maya reflected on the strange journey that had brought them together. Do you ever think about how different our lives would be if circumstances had been different? She asked. Thomas considered this. You mean if you had been able to have children with your first husband? Or if Isabella had not died? Yes, we would never have met. Your children would have grown up without me and I would have lived a completely different life. Thomas pulled her closer. I try not to think about that too much because it makes me sad. Not sad that Isabella died, I will always grieve that loss. But sad to imagine a world where you and I never found each other. Maya understood exactly what he meant. I used to think my inability to have children was a curse. Now I wonder if it was a different kind of blessing. It brought me to children who needed me desperately, and to a man who loves me for exactly who I am. Perhaps, Thomas said thoughtfully. We do not always understand why difficult things happen to us until much later. Your first marriage had to end for you to be available when my family needed you. Isabella's death was a tragedy that brought incredible pain, but it also created the circumstances that allowed you to become part of our lives. Maya had never thought about her struggles in this way before. Her infertility, her divorce, even her humiliation in the marketplace. All of these painful experiences had been necessary steps on the path that led her to this family and this love. I am grateful, she said simply. For all of it, even the difficult parts, because they brought me home. Outside their window, the mountain forest was alive with the sounds of spring. Inside their house, 4 children slept peacefully, secure in the knowledge that they had parents who loved them and each other. And in their bed, Maya and Thomas held each other close, thankful for the unexpected love that had grown from practical necessity into something beautiful and lasting. Maya's story was far from over, but this chapter, the chapter where she learned that love could grow in the most unexpected places, was perfect exactly as it was. 2 years had passed since Maya first arrived in the mountain valley, and the transformation was remarkable. What had once been a house full of grief and struggle was now a home filled with laughter, learning, and love. Maya stood in her garden on a warm summer morning, watching Diego help Thomas repair a fence while the twins picked berries nearby. Anna was reading under her favorite tree, finally acting like the teenager she was instead of carrying the weight of the world on her shoulders. Maya was hanging laundry on the line when she noticed unfamiliar figures approaching through the forest path. Visitors were rare in their remote location, and as the figures drew closer, Maya's heart began to race with recognition and dread. Her parents were walking toward their house, accompanied by a younger man she did not immediately recognize. "Thomas," Maya called, her voice tight with sudden anxiety. Thomas looked up from his work, immediately sensing trouble in Maya's tone. He put down his tools and walked quickly toward the house, Diego following close behind. Maya's father looked older and more worn than she remembered. Her mother's face was set in the determined expression Maya knew meant trouble. The young man with them had the arrogant bearing of someone accustomed to getting his way. "Maya," her father said without any greeting or warmth. "We need to talk." Thomas moved to stand beside Maya, his presence a silent show of support. The children gathered behind them, sensing tension even if they did not understand its source. "Who are these people?" Pablo asked in his direct way. "My parents," Maya said quietly, "and I do not know who the other man is." "I am Vikram," the stranger announced. Maya's brother-in-law, her youngest brother's husband. Maya stared at him in confusion. "My youngest brother is only 16. He is not married." "He is now," her mother said firmly. "We arranged a marriage for him last month. But there were complications with the bride price. We need additional funds." Maya felt Thomas tense beside her as understanding dawned. "And you think I have money to give you?" Her father's expression hardened. "You are our daughter. You have obligations to your family. This man you are living with can surely spare some coins to help his wife's family." "We are not just living together," Maya said clearly. "We are married. This is my husband and these are my children." "Children?" Her mother's voice was sharp with surprise. "But you cannot have children." That is why I became their mother in the ways that matter," Maya interrupted. "Ana, Diego, Rosa, Pablo, these are my children now and I am their mother." Maya's parents looked at the four young people standing protectively around Maya, and their confusion was obvious. In their understanding of the world, children belonged to their birth parents only. The idea that Maya could become a real mother to children she had not given birth to did not fit their narrow definitions of family. Vikram stepped forward aggressively. "Listen, woman, your family has needs. Your brother requires a larger bride price to secure his marriage properly. You owe your parents compensation for the money they lost when your first marriage failed." Maya felt anger rise in her chest like fire. "I owe them nothing. They sold me like livestock when I could not provide grandchildren. They took money for me as if I were property." "You are their daughter," Vikram insisted. "In our culture, children have obligations to their parents. You must return home and help your family." Thomas spoke for the first time, his voice calm but steel-edged. "Maya is my wife and the mother of my children. She is not returning anywhere with you." Maya's father looked around their property, the well-maintained house, the thriving garden, the obvious prosperity, and his expression grew calculating. "This man clearly has means," he said to Maya. "Surely he can spare enough to help your birth family." "It is only right, right?" Anna spoke up suddenly, her young voice sharp with indignation. "What is right about abandoning someone when they need you, then coming back when you want something?" Maya's mother looked shocked that a child would speak to adults this way, but Anna continued fearlessly. "Maya became our mother when we had none. She loved us when we were difficult and sad and angry. She taught us and cared for us and made our family whole again. And you want to take her away from us for money?" Diego stepped forward to stand beside his sister. "Maya belongs here. We are her family now." Rosa, shy by nature but fierce in defense of those she loved, moved to Maya's other side. "You cannot have our mama back. We need her." Even Pablo, usually cheerful and carefree, looked serious as he joined his siblings. "Maya makes the best food and tells the best stories and gives the best hugs. She is ours." Maya felt tears spring to her eyes at her children's fierce defense of her place in their family, but her parents looked unmoved by the display of loyalty. "These are not your real children," her mother said to Maya. "Your duty is to your blood family, not to strangers." That was the moment Maya realized how completely her old family had failed to understand what family truly meant. She looked at her parents, people who had created her but had never truly valued her, and then at the four children who had accepted her completely. "You are wrong," Maya said, her voice growing stronger with each word. "These are my real children, not because I gave birth to them, but because I choose to love them every day. Not because we share blood, but because we share lives and hearts and dreams." She moved to stand in front of her children, placing herself between them and her parents like a shield. "A real family is not about blood or duty or obligation," Maya continued. "It is about choosing to care for each other, to support each other, to stand together when times are difficult. These children and this man chose me when I had nothing to offer but love. You abandoned me when I needed you most. Thomas stepped forward to stand beside his wife, his hand finding hers. Maya is right. She has been a true mother to my children and a true wife to me. We are a family by choice, which makes our bond stronger than blood. Maya's father grew angry at their refusal. You are being selfish and ungrateful. We raised you, fed you, clothed you. You owe us for that. I owed you respect and love as your daughter, Maya replied, and I gave you both for 23 years. But when I needed your support and protection, you sold me to strangers. You broke the family bond first. Vikram stepped forward threateningly. You will come with us and help your family, or there will be consequences. That was when Thomas revealed why he had survived and thrived in the wilderness for so many years. His quiet nature had hidden a core of steel that emerged when his family was threatened. There will be no consequences, Thomas said, his voice deadly calm, because you are going to leave my property now and you are not going to return. Maya has made her choice clear. She stays with her real family. And if we refuse to leave, Vikram challenged. Thomas smiled, but it was not a pleasant expression. Then you will discover that men who live in the wilderness learn to protect what is theirs. We are 3 days' walk from any other people. Accidents happen in the forest all the time. The threat was subtle but unmistakable. Maya's parents and Vikram found themselves facing a man who would do whatever was necessary to protect his family, in a place where no one would question his version of events. Maya's mother tried one last appeal. Maya, surely you cannot mean to cut ties with your birth family forever. We are your parents. Maya looked at the woman who had given birth to her but had never truly seen her value. You stopped being my parents when you decided I was worth more as a commodity than as a daughter. You made your choice 2 years ago. Now I am making mine. She turned to face Thomas and the children. This is my family. These are the people who love me for who I am, not for what I can provide them. These are the people I choose to spend my life with. Anna stepped forward and took Maya's hand. And we choose you too, forever. Diego nodded solemnly. You are our real mother, no matter what anyone says. Rosa wrapped her arms around Maya's waist. Please do not leave us, Mama. Pablo, still young enough to be direct about his feelings, glared at Maya's parents. Go away. You are making our mama sad. Maya's parents stood there for a long moment, realizing that they had lost this battle completely. Their daughter was not the broken, desperate woman they had sold 2 years ago. She was now a confident woman with a family that loved and supported her. She had found her place in the world, and it was not with them. You will regret this decision, her father said bitterly. No, Maya replied with absolute certainty. The only thing I regret is that it took me so long to understand what real family means. As her birth family turned to leave, Maya felt a weight lift from her shoulders that she had been carrying for years. She was no longer the disappointing daughter who could not fulfill her parents' expectations. She was not the barren wife who had failed her husband's family. She was simply Maya, beloved wife, devoted mother, and valued member of a family that had chosen her just as she had chosen them. Thomas put his arm around her shoulders as they watched her parents disappear into the forest. Are you all right? Maya looked around at her husband and children, all watching her with concern and love. I am perfect. I am exactly where I belong. That evening, as they sat around their dinner table, Maya reflected on the journey that had brought her to this moment.